I want to show you the laziest way that you can make money from Airbnb in 3 simple steps. You might think that you need to own a property in order to be successful in Airbnb. So, how are people making money from Airbnb from a property they don't actually own, all while doing it in their sleep? Well, that's what I'm going to show you now with my 3-step formula. But how have I perfected this 3-step formula? Well, over the last 2 years, I've spent hundreds of thousands of pounds in my own Airbnb business to create this perfect model. And now my Airbnb business makes over £150,000 per month. So, what's the first step of the laziest way to make money through Airbnb? Let me tell you a story really quick. Meet John. John is a landlord who brags about his 8 properties to his friends. He tells his friends that he's earning over 10k a month from his properties. But there's one secret that he's hiding, one word that he purposely isn't adding to his humble 10k a month figure. What is it? It's profit. John isn't making 10k per month profit, he makes that in revenue. And he doesn't tell his friends this because he's actually only making £1,000 per month profit. And he's losing his hair over maintenance, dealing with tenants, and trying to fill an empty property. He doesn't want to deal with the stress anymore, just to make less than someone working a part-time job. And after investing so much money and time into the property, he doesn't know what to do. Right now, John is like many landlords. John is begging for a solution. And that's where you come in. And you say, hey, I know a way to increase your profit by 3x. And I can do that on Airbnb without you having to lift a finger. You tell him you manage other people's properties, you deal with pricing, guest communication, the cleaners, the maintenance, etc. This is your Airbnb management offer. But what you don't tell him is that you actually don't have to do all the work yourself. This is the first step. It's creating value via acquisition. By acquiring the property from John and doing Airbnb management, you are adding value to the property. So both you and John benefit from this. You might be thinking, this doesn't sound lazy, and it actually sounds like a lot of effort. But what if I told you you can still do all of this from the comfort of your own bed? But how? You see, landlords aren't doing too great at the moment, so it's easy to pick them out from a crowd. And the best part is, we aren't living in the Stone Ages anymore. They are also on their laptops and on their phones and on social media, just like you. This makes it so much easier finding them. What's even better is that because landlords are doing so poorly at the moment, especially in the UK, they are so willing to try new things and hand over their property for you to manage for them. If you're telling them they could make 3 times more profit than they make now, they're going to jump at you. And if you want to know how to do the perfect pitch, I've already made a video on this on my channel, so go check it out. Reaching out to landlords is something we go over in the Airbnb Mastery program, and we show our students the proven sales techniques and scripts. This is one of the most valuable resources we have, and that helped Nikki and Finton and Sophie and Guy all secure their first properties within 90 days. Anyway, now we have a property under our belt. How are we going to make this work? You've promised the landlord that you are going to handle guest communication, manage the pricing, coordinate with cleaners for every single turnover you get. Sounds like a nightmare, right? So let's say you get 10 bookings in a month. That's 10 times you have to tell the guests how to check in, 10 times you need to make sure the pricing is right, 10 times you need to tell the cleaners that they need to go in and clean the property. That sounds like a nightmare and not very lazy to me. It's basically 3 full-time jobs, right? How do we actually make this lazy? You are probably thinking of hiring someone to do it, right? And yeah, okay, that's fine, but let's run through that scenario. You put out a job ad, you get a whole bunch of candidates who apply for the job, but now you realize that you're going to have to pay them at least £26,000 a year. That's not sounding very budget friendly for a starting business. Plus, if you want someone who is actually competent and experienced to do this, you are going to have to pay them, don't know, maybe £30,000–40,000 a year to actually get someone who's going to be able to do a good job. Again, not very budget friendly. So what will you do now? Well, thankfully, technology exists and we can use software. That's the best part. You only really need 2 softwares. We use Guesty and Price Labs. Price Labs is going to be your price automation software. So what does this actually do? This automates the pricing for you so you don't have to worry about it. Price Labs takes into account seasonal demand, public holidays, and the location of your property in that area. So That's one responsibility and one big job off your list. But what about the rest? How are you going to deal with guest communication, managing the property, telling the cleaners? This is where Guesty comes in. It's going to centralize all your operations. This means you won't have to manually block out your Airbnb calendar because someone has booked it through booking.com. You won't have to reply to every single guest message because you've already got automated messages and automated replies via AI. And you won't have to notify the cleaners every single time a booking leaves your property because this will already be automated to tell them. And the best part, these softwares cost around £20 each for your first property. And with each additional property added, it's like another £10 to £20. That's a whole lot cheaper than paying someone £2,500 to do the exact same job. Software can be a little bit overwhelming at first, but that's one of the things that we cover with my teaching and my team, and we can give you expert advice on how to maximize and use these softwares so you can grow your Airbnb business on autopilot, just like we've done to scale to 50 plus units now. So you might start thinking, okay, I can see the automations, I can see the leverage, and I can see how I can do it from my laptop in my bed. And you are right. You can manage these softwares from your laptop in your bed, and it isn't really that hard. But what if I told you you could get even lazier and outsource even more? How would you do that? Your software is doing 70% of the work, and now you are doing about 30% of the work. But how can you reduce that 30% down to 10%, let's say? A common misconception is that when starting a business, you need to hire employees, especially ones that are in your own country. This is why a lot of startup businesses fail. They need labor, but they can't afford it, and labor in the UK is too expensive. But what they fail to realize is that you don't need employees in the UK. If you're working a remote business and a remote job, a successful small business can succeed at scale by outsourcing to remote workers and virtual assistants. This is exactly what we do and exactly what I teach my students to do as well. Now, how do you actually find these VAs? We've got 10 people working with us now. Well, simply, you find them on places like onlinejobs.ph, Upwork, Fiverr, all these kind of things. And this is where you can find VAs who specialize in certain aspects of guest management, guest communications, pricing, etc. What you will need to do is then you'll need to screen the VAs, include a questionnaire, a challenge, a video interview, all before bringing the final candidates in for an interview. And from there, you pick your winner. Soon you'll realize you can get people just as talented or sometimes even better for half the price. Now, that makes it a no-brainer to start outsourcing. Now, what we need to do next is train them on your systems. You need to introduce them to Price Labs and Guesty and any other back-end things you have. Some VAs will already have experience in this through prior jobs, but you want to make sure that they are aligned with your business and how you want to operate. For example, we have 2 VAs who manage over 50 properties now. Imagine if I had to do all of that by myself with my mum. That would be way too much work and the business will never scale. The VAs are amazing because you can bring on high-level people who are just as good as UK employees with high-level English for a much lower cost. It's always your responsibility to be open and honest with your VA about how much your business brings in, treat them like any other employee and be a good employer. And then they will stick around and you have someone who is loyal. By paying them more than they would usually be paid in other jobs, it helps you build a great relationship with them. So we always treat ours with the utmost respect and try and give them the most amount of money that we can. VAs tend to cost anywhere from £500 to £700 a month, depending on the quality you want to bring in. But if you have 10 properties bringing you 6 to 10k a month, after you take your management commission, that cost is easily absorbed and it allows you to scale further. What you essentially need to do now is just repeat the process. Onboard more properties, implement it into the software, and then scale. The best part about Airbnb management is when you onboard more properties and more landlords, it doesn't mean the workload is that much worse. As long as you've built good systems with your VAs, your Price Labs, your Guesty, these are designed to manage tens of properties at a time. It's almost a waste of resources just to have one Airbnb property. Doesn't make sense. That summarizes and concludes the 3-step formula I would do to make money from Airbnb in the laziest way possible. And it's the exact formula I've used to go from 0 to 150k per month on Airbnb. Being lazy is the best way to grow because it forces you to automate and outsource your business so you can focus on scale. If you want to learn more about how to make money from Airbnb, make sure you watch the next video.